You ever had someone try to flex power in a place you literally own? Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me last weekend. Imagine this. I'm driving down my gravel road toward the lake. When suddenly, two guys in reflective vests step out and block my path. "Sir, residents only," one of them says with a straight face. I laugh, thinking it's a joke, but they're dead serious. The sign behind them says, "Private property. HOA residents only." Here's the punchline. I'm not just a resident. I'm the guy who built the entire lake and sold the surrounding plots that formed this HOA in the first place. But these new security hires don't know that. One of them waves me back like I'm some random fisherman trespassing. "Sir, please turn around before we have to call the HOA board." Oh, the irony. Because the HOA board technically owes me the right to use that water. The dam, the lake bed, the drainage systems, all of it is still under my ownership. But fine, I decide to play along. "You're saying I can't go to my own lake?" I ask calmly. "That's correct," the taller one says. "This area is for HOA members and guests only." "Guess I'll need to have a word with the board president then," I say, holding back a smirk. What they don't know is that the HOA president, Karen, yes, her name is actually Karen, has been on a little power trip lately. Ever since she became president, she's been trying to enforce community standards everywhere, including on property she doesn't even control. The guards radio someone, whispering. Then one turns back and says, "Ma'am says you're not authorized." I can't help but laugh out loud this time. Not authorized? On my own land? Interesting. That's when I decide to let them know who they're dealing with. I pull out a folder from my truck's glove compartment. Original property plats, survey maps, and ownership deeds, all listing my name as the legal owner of the dam and lake waterway. "Tell Karen," I say, handing them a copy, "that if she wants to use my lake, she might want to start paying my water maintenance fees again." The color drains from their faces. And that's when things start to get really interesting. 5 minutes later, I'm sitting in my truck, sipping coffee, watching two HOA security guards frantically make phone calls. They're pacing like they just realized they've messed with the wrong guy. Which, spoiler alert, they absolutely have. Then here she comes, Karen herself. Blonde bob haircut, sunglasses bigger than her ego, marching down the gravel road like she owns the world. Behind her? A golf cart with a big HOA president decal plastered across the side. You can't make this stuff up. She screeches to a stop, gets out, and points at me. "Sir, you are trespassing on HOA property," she declares, loud enough for the squirrels to hear. I calmly step out of my truck and smile. "Hi, Karen. Always a pleasure. Funny thing, though. The property you're calling HOA land actually belongs to me." She scoffs. "We've discussed this before. The board voted last year to restrict lake access to residents only. That includes you." I raise an eyebrow. "Karen, the HOA can't vote away my deed. You might control the picnic tables, but I own the water, the dam, and the entire drainage structure. You're basically having your little club meeting on top of my property." Karen crosses her arms. "Then I'll let the sheriff decide," she snaps. I can't help but chuckle. Perfect. Let's do that. 15 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulls up, dust kicking up behind it. Out steps Deputy Harris, a man I've known for 10 years. He tips his hat. "Hey, Mike, heard there's a situation?" Karen storms over. "Deputy! This man is trespassing on HOA property and refusing to leave." Harris looks at me, then at her, then sighs. "Karen, this the same lake dam we've talked about before?" "Yes," she insists. "The HOA—" "Karen," he interrupts, "the lake and dam belong to Mike. We've checked the county records. HOA can't restrict him from his own property." Karen freezes. The guards exchange awkward looks. You could hear a mosquito blink. Harris turns back to me. "Sorry you had to deal with this again, buddy. Mind if I hang out for a minute to make sure they don't give you more grief?" I nod. "Appreciate it." Karen's face turns red. Not from embarrassment, but from rage. "This isn't over," she hisses. You'll regret undermining the board's authority. I grin. Authority ends where ownership begins, Karen. She storms off, muttering about violations and fines. But as she disappears down the path, a new idea starts forming in my mind, a way to remind her exactly who controls the dam. I didn't plan to teach Karen a lesson that soon. But when arrogance keeps pushing, nature has a funny way of helping you push back. It started 2 days later. I got an email from the HOA board. Official letterhead. Legal jargon, the whole thing. It read, "Effective immediately, non-HOA members are prohibited from operating boats, swimming or fishing on the HOA lake. Continued violations will result in fines." That last part made me laugh out loud. Fines? On my lake? So I decided it was time to remind them who actually makes the lake exist. See, the HOA might think they own the water, but they seem to forget what controls it. The dam. And that dam? 100% mine. I handle the maintenance, the overflow gate, and even the pumps that keep the water level steady. So early the next morning, I drove out there, coffee in hand, and opened the maintenance shed. I made a few small adjustments to the water gates. Nothing illegal, nothing harmful, just enough to lower the water level a couple of feet. Think of it as a gentle wake-up call. By noon, panic had set in. My phone started buzzing like a beehive. Missed calls from unknown numbers, text messages from neighbors, even a few frantic voicemails. "Mike, the lake's draining." "What's going on? Did something break?" And then, the cherry on top, one from Karen herself. "You need to fix this immediately. The HOA has boats, events, and scheduled maintenance this week." I called her back, calm as ever. "Karen," I said, "I got your message. But technically, it's not your lake. If you'd like to use it again, the HOA will need to sign a water access agreement. Satis, and pay a modest maintenance fee to cover my costs." She exploded. "You can't do that. You're holding the community hostage." I smiled. "No, Karen, I'm maintaining my property. You're the one trespassing on it." For the next 2 days, the once pristine lake looked like a muddy crater. HOA members were furious. Their boats sat stranded on the shoreline, and the exclusive lakefront homes suddenly didn't seem so exclusive anymore. By day 3, I received a message from another board member, one not as delusional as Karen, asking to talk terms. I knew then that the tides, or should I say levels, were finally turning. By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, the lake still looked like it had gone on vacation. The air was thick with tension, and the residents were furious. Not at me, but at Karen. Their summer BBQs, their paddleboards, their perfect lake view selfies, all ruined. I decided to attend the meeting, not out of spite, but to settle things, legally, peacefully. And, okay, maybe with a little satisfaction. The community hall was packed. Every folding chair was taken, and Karen sat up front with her usual smug expression. Though this time, she looked a little less confident. The whispers were brutal. "She caused this. She pushed too far. My kids can't even swim now." The meeting started with Karen slamming her gavel. "Order! Let's maintain order," she barked, clearly flustered. "We're here to discuss the ongoing water issue and the actions of a certain individual who has sabotaged HOA property." I stood up before she could even finish. "You mean the property that I own?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few neighbors clapped under their breath. Karen glared. "Mr. Thompson, you deliberately drained a shared community lake." I pulled out my folder again, the same one from that day at the gate, and set it on the table with a satisfying thud. "Actually, Karen, as confirmed by the county records and my attorney, the dam, the outflow systems, and the water body rights belong to me. I didn't drain your lake, I adjusted mine." The HOA's vice president leaned forward, flipping through the papers. His face went pale. "She's right, Karen," he muttered. "This says it clear as day." Karen's composure snapped. "This is ridiculous. I'm the HOA president. I control what happens in this neighborhood." I smiled calmly. "Then you might want to start by controlling your facts. Because right now, your board has been using my lake, hosting events on my property, and collecting HOA fees for something you don't even own. The room erupted. Residents started yelling, some demanding refunds, others laughing in disbelief. Karen slammed her gavel again, voice cracking. Everyone calm down. He's manipulating the situation. But no one was listening. The vice president finally stood. Karen, I think it's best if we vote to formally recognize Mike's ownership and negotiate a new access agreement. Immediately, her jaw dropped. You can't be serious. Oh, I am, he said flatly. By the end of the night, Karen had resigned, red-faced, humiliated, and defeated. A week later, the HOA signed a fair access contract. The lake refilled, peace returned, and Karen's infamous power trip became a local legend. And as I watched the sunset shimmer on my water again, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, the best way to stop an HOA from drowning you in rules is to remind them who controls the dam. Enjoying this wild HOA drama? Hit that subscribe button for more real-life entitled People Stories just like this one. Smash that, like if you think Karen finally got what she deserved. And drop a comment below, what would you have done if security tried to stop you on your own property?